Hi friends, welcome to Crafting and Relaxing. This is the second video in the series about Ashley's journal, so be sure that you don't miss the first one. Okay, my dinner break was quick, and I actually looked at a few things in my journal playlist while I was eating and kind of thinking about different things. I go back and watch my old videos and go, oh, I haven't done that in a while. Normally what I do is if I'm doing assembly line journals or I have lots of paper, I turn on the music and I just start chopping paper. And I would go 8.5 by 11 and chop it and probably not think about it. What I'm going to do here is I'm looking for something that's not directional. Oh, we're going to use this one and we'll cover that up. Okay, so I want to have some pages that tip down from the top. I want to have at least one or two that come in from the side, and I want to have some pockets. Directional papers are tricky for top or bottom pockets, and I'm going to assume these florals aren't really directional. Yeah, they'd work both ways. This might be a little weird because of the border. Let's use this one for pockets so I don't have to mess with that. My battery is getting low on my phone, which is probably going to cause you some problems. You might not get to hang out very long. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this branding strip, as we call them, and I'm going to cut. They're not going to show on the same page. So I'm kind of thinking about how this will look. This is going to show at the top though, and I can't be okay with that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up some of the depth of my pocket, or at least try it, and go like this. And then I only want my pieces probably 11 inches wide. I don't know. This one's going to be a little weird. This one may not be a success. And I probably should have only cut 1/2 inch off of that. Let me see. Okay, so it's a 10 3/4. It will work fine more into the center of the journal. If you have made journals before, that statement will make more sense because in the center of the journals, the papers can be a little narrower. We know we want our pages to be 8.5 inches tall. We don't know how much of a pocket that's going to give us. Probably not too much. Maybe what we want to do is make this one a tip instead. I'll show you what I mean. Instead of a pocket. So 8.5, it's going to go right there. I left the door open because my scoreboard was in the other room, so I went to get it. So they're coming, and they're walking on the Cartabella paper. So we're going to have to make some adjustments. Look out, Missy. Okay, there. Closed most of it. Okay, so this will tip down and cover up more of this paper. And then what we'll probably do is we'll probably put some kind of pocket on this. Usually on my tips, they're light colored. What I'm thinking I might do here is put some light colored paper, use a scalloped punch. I think I got it. I think it'll work. Okay, now, if it doesn't work, I'll just go through my stash until I come up with pieces of paper that work. I have other brands that are textured. There are different brands over the years that have made textured paper. They might not be this thick. They might not feel exactly the same. It would be a lot easier if she was junky. If her style was junky, then I could mix more in. But I really do want to kind of keep it a matchy-matchy journal. You've heard me say that before, and I like them both ways. I'm going to cut this in the middle, and this is going to tip down from the top. It'll make way more sense if you're new here when you see it in the journal. These papers that are directional, to me, they're obvious. We're going to cut them 8.5 inches tall because we're not going to have a pocket because we don't want our flower pots to be upside down. The only way to get a pocket here would be, yeah, I don't see it. You could have done, nope. We're not going to spend a bunch of time overthinking this piece of paper. We're just going to go 8.5 We're going to cut it. And then we're going to have a lot of help from the little ones. Now, what we could have done, and actually what I probably, well, I don't know how I feel about all this. I could have taken the top off, but it's a little complex to make a video and have 2 kittens running around, so it didn't even occur to me. This I'm fine with because I'm probably going to put a pocket here and cover this up anyway. And I might have tried to cover up that whole cart even. I think that's pretty nice. It's very wedding reception-y, isn't it? Then they'll go in here. I'm not going to worry about the sequence yet. We'll figure that out later. I'm thinking if I can get it to the shape of a journal tonight, then we're golden. Eliza, stop it. She's trying to climb. Maybe a little bit directional. It's weird. It has butterflies in it. The butterflies are all right side up. I don't love this side anyway. I think this side works better. So what I'm thinking is let's cut the branding strip off and then let's make this a bottom pocket. Okay, so I'm going to make it 11 inches wide. And if my paper's beat up and damaged, I cut it off of both sides. This was a new package that I just opened up, so we're good. And I'm going to turn it sideways and I'm going to fold it at 8.5. We'll score it 8.5 and then fold it at 8.5. And I'm sort of finishing each piece as I go because maybe I'll get up in the morning and forget what my plan was for it. Sometimes I lay them out in a stack. Sometimes that backfires on me. So I am folding them and then I'm going to put them in here so we know, okay, which way up do I want? And that one has a nice big pocket. Since that one's skimpy, I still could flip it and it could be a pocket, but it's kind of skimpy and I think we're going to have plenty of pockets. We'll see. We'll see how all our papers turn out. Was this just a black version? Yeah, okay. I like the back of this very much. Nice to write on. So I don't really want to cover it up. This is a lot. I think I'm going to fold it this way, bring in more cream, and tone that down for her. Which I don't usually do. I don't usually knock back. But since there isn't a back side on this that is white or solid, I need to make sure I got all the way to the cream. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot of pattern. That one is a little dent up, so we're going to cut it off of that side. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I make it fit the person a little better? It is, speaking of a lot, there's a lot going on around me with kittens. Okay, 8.5. Zelda is on my right, carefully watching everything I do. And Eliza is falling into the cupboard of shame. We're going to score. And then we're actually going to turn this one over, which I think is the proper way to score. Yep. It went very nicely too. It folded nicely. And then I'm going to fold it right now. The middle, remember, is going to be stitched. So it doesn't really matter like if I use my bone folder nicely or how the middle looks. People aren't going to see it so much. I do come back and smash them down a bit with my bone folder, but really what matters is this edge right here that's fighting me. There we go. That corner. I want to be sure it's square and get it kind of situated. Now, because this paper is so thick, I'm probably going to have to trim these off because when you fold it, the pockets stick out a little. That's okay. When I first started making journals, I cut all of these and trimmed them. Yeah, I don't do any of that anymore. I think it probably keeps it more stable, and then I don't have to worry about the angle of my cuts. Now, I just can't help but sort of look at how they're laying out order-wise. But I don't need to, do I? We'll figure that out later. Now, I think this is pretty trendy. I'm not that cool, so I don't know. The flour and sugar one, I don't know. I'm not, this piece of paper is hard for me. I don't love either side of it. I feel like this is a little dark for what she wanted. But I think we're going to have to use it. Oh, I love this one. Okay, so I love this side. And I love this side. I don't know how she feels about old trucks. Oh my gosh, let me tell you a story about this girl. It was her little brother's football game, and I had just gotten my 67 Mustang around 2005, 2010, something like that. There was a bunch of shuffling in cars, and we were parked far apart, so she rode with me across a parking lot, a really big parking lot at a high school, and she asked me, is this a used car? And it was so cute. Probably because she'd never been in anything like it. She was just confused by it. So I don't really know how where she stands on the old vehicles like this one, but I think it would be nice to have this. Okay, chunky girl coming through. Look out, Missy. Miss Eliza, she's helping. How many pockets do we have? We have 2 already. I think we'll get kind of bulky, and it might be nice to have scraps of this to make pockets and stuff. Pockets, we could use it for journaling cards. That's what we'll do. Okay, so we're going to cut it carefully. We're going to cut it at 8.5. Here she comes again. And then we're going to cut off the edge for the 1 inch. We do want the 1 inch strips because we can, oh shoot, I shouldn't have cut that one. This one would be a great one to do a tip. I haven't done a side tip, so we want some of those. But those 1 inch strips make nice tuck spots. Okay, then we just have this beautiful page. And we can layer stuff on it or whatever. I think these are the exact colors that she was looking for. I don't know how we got that one yucky. I don't know if it's adhesive. Maybe. Okay, this is too much, girls. One is just sitting in the corner like an angel. The other one, very helpful. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm thinking there's probably, there's showers in there. There's dress shopping. There are some big events. I'm not in love with this paper. And I don't like this. I don't want to play up this really dark because I want to keep it light. She didn't say anything about dark accents. I know you need a little bit of contrast though. I do like contrast. The paper's pretty banged up, so I'm going to go just a smidge taller and then turn it this way and tidy that edge up. There we go. And then I think it'll be a nice way. I can always cut it later, but it's a little trickier since we're not doing a messy style, because I can't just necessarily tear it off and it might be sewn in. But I think I would like a tip of this. Oops. This paper. There we go. It's sturdy. That will give a lighter look to that page. And I think I'll glue it down and have 2 journaling cards that are light on that page. I'm going to have to go through my stash and look for things that are very neutral. Eliza is taking stuff out of the drawer next to me, and I can use in this journal. And my plan is not to rush to sew this together tonight, just to get it shaped like a journal. Now, see how the pages are sticking out a bunch? That's what I was talking about the inside ones could be shorter. I made this one a little shorter because I wanted that tuck spot to have some length. So I'm going to move that to the inside probably. Yeah, somewhere in the middle. The inside was too short for it. And if you want them all to line up perfectly, which sometimes I don't care about, you have to pull out the middle ones and trim them. See how this one's sticking out? And I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I'll probably trim them more than I would normally. Gosh, I feel like the back of that paper is such a miss. But with all these creams and sages, this one really does work nicely. It's directional. I can't really hold it up. I would like to cover more of that, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. These would make really nice embellishments too. I can chop them up and use them throughout the journal. So let's go for it. Let's cut it down to 8.5 tall. And let's just cut it to 11 inches. Fold it, stick it in there, and see what happens. If we hate it, we could pull it out before we sew it together. Even if we had sewed it together, we could take the whole thing apart and get it back out of there. Okay, now what do we have left? This one, definitely not for journal pages. This one, I don't know. Okay, girl, going around again, making me crazy. Now I'm feeling these. These are nice, but not journal pages. Oh, forgot about this one. I am super bummed because this would be great in this journal. I would like to have pages of this. I don't love all the home and mom's baking company, and that just doesn't make sense for this. If all of the sentiments on this page made sense, then I would keep this page intact and use it that way. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out, the camera will be off because the phone's dying, the kittens are wearing me out. I'm going to cut out the sentiments that I want out of this, and then we'll have all of this for embellishments in the journal. It's not exactly how I'd like it, but it is what it is. And this paper we can use for lining the backs of things to write on. Like, I could take, they're not the same texture, but that's okay because the journal will get really bulky. I could take this and line the back of it with this and make really nice journal cards for this. And we might do that. Okay, so we're going to keep that. We've got our sticker sheet. I've got some random things here that I'm not sure make sense, but might. We've got the other sticker sheet. We've got this that I'm going to chop up. I'm going to put this on the other counter. It's so much pink. I'm so glad she didn't say pink. I might use this too, so I'm going to put it in here. I mean, for this girl, if she wanted an all pink journal, I would do it. I would craft all weekend with pink for this girl. But this is way more fun. Okay, so you've seen me cut up journal cards a million times. You'll figure out what you'll see how I decide to do that one. But I'll let you, on this one, see what I'm talking about. When you have a couple of sentiments that are really important to you, cut those out first. So I'm going to take this, together is our favorite place to be, and I'm going to cut it this way. And I'm not going to take it off of this yet because I'm still thinking, how cute would it be? I could go, together is our favorite place to be, 3 on a page, and those are my pockets. So if you haven't seen me do that, usually it's not one piece, but I'm not going to cut the green off of it yet. Now, this whole section I could use for whatever I want, and I want the biggest pieces I can get because I could take this green, back it with one of those really neutral papers I showed you, and make journaling cards out of it too, and tone down the fact that this is a double-sided paper. There's not a lot of places to write. So because of that, I'm going to cut into the color. I'm not going to even keep the vehicles or anything because I want the biggest one I can get. So I'm going to go right here. And then I'm going to stop for a minute and think because I like this a lot. I could do the same kind of pocket page concept with the floral. I'm going to take off the branding strip. It'll help you see a little more what I see. What I'm thinking here is, and so they built a life that they loved, that will come off. And then this will be one piece. And that will be my decorations on the page with the foliage on each side of it. It'll be gorgeous. Now, when I have these, I have messed up more than once and left these on the counter like this and chopped them up because I'm not going to use these until so much later. So what I'm going to do this time, in the hopes that I don't do that, is I'm going to put a paper clip on them so it keeps them together. Like I'm noting, okay, these are important. I'm not going to push it on too much because I don't want to overdo it. And then I'm going to put them towards the bottom of the bin because I'm not going to use these until I have pages made and everything. And when I set them in there, I'm going to put them this way up. So they're down there with the embellishments and they're safe. I'm not going to leave them laying around because have you ever done that? You pick this up and you go, oh, I want blah, blah, blah. And then you flip it over and you're heartbroken because that wasn't your plan. Now, every scrap of this, even my branding strip with just this in it for now, is precious to me because I don't know what I'm going to do. And in one of my journals, I saw that I took these, folded them in half and stapled them, and they were really cute, like pull tags on my pockets and tags. Oh, I got to show you my crafter buddy. I hope my battery's still working. Look at this. She just sat over there and watched for a while and then just put herself down for a little nap. How's Miss Zelda? Are you tired? My friend Katie has a little blanket in the corner of her quilting table, and maybe that's what we need. Maybe we'll just get little angel kitties to sleep in the corner if we do. Now, they're getting bigger all the time. How are you doing? Are you guarding the mail? Did we get happy mail and you're protecting it? Okay. Yeah, this is Eliza, and the Sleeping Beauty is Zelda, and Eliza's a little bit older. Huh. I think Eliza might be full grown. I'm going to gather up my scraps and double check the last of my pages, and then probably just take my scraps and my cutter and go in the other room and sit down and start figuring out what type of embellishments will I make for this journal out of this paper. Or maybe I'll take my tags and start going through those and look for the cream colored, the most boring neutral ones I have that I haven't stamped on or touched yet. I don't think you missed very much. I put a few things together and laid things out, and I'm ready to sew it together. I did add a piece of neutral paper. I'm ready to sew it together. The way I've done this, where I set all the stuff on the pages that I want it, isn't very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back all those out, put them somewhere kitten safe. I'll probably tuck them in these pockets in order, and then sew the journal together and then glue them in. I'm sometimes hesitant to sew things together because I don't know exactly how the page is going to lay, and I want it centered after I stitch it together. And some pages are tighter than others. Sometimes you get a little bit of a buckle. I think it's easier to do that after. But, there's no reason I couldn't glue this one on yet, but I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to round the corners. So I just don't want to rush anything. All right, I want to get this journal sewed together pretty quick for a couple of reasons. A, I've been dawdling, we slept in. Also, I'm having trouble with my phone, so Mr. Crafting and Relaxing, I think, is going to take it away. It either needs a new battery or I need to replace the phone or whatever, but it is not making it through a day at all. Not even a day of filming, but it can't even make it through a work day, and I don't use my phone a lot at work. And last night it quit twice, and pretty much every time I go to film a video, I have to charge it. Also, it's giving some warning about the battery. So, it seemed like a sure thing. And I wanted you to be able to see, sometimes I skip this fiddly part, and also sometimes I'm not as careful with the fiddly part. This is a journal that I hope I will look at years from now again, and it will have held up. Now, I don't know where my tiny scissors are. Here we go. So you might hear banging. Mr. Crafting and Relaxing and Zeus are playing fetch. And then he has a few other things he wants to do. Mr. Crafting and Relaxing does. And then he's going to take my phone. It doesn't take very long at all to sew a journal together. I mean, it takes like maybe 20 minutes, but I usually spend a couple hours procrastinating on the important ones. I haven't done a great job on this. That's all right. No one will even notice. So what we've done is made it so that these will tip up and they'll have some room. This one is probably still too tight. If you think about it, you have all these layers in your journal and it needs to be able to open and move. So this one, I think still, it's a little bit on the fold. The middle fold is still there. So if I have part of that crinkle from the fold, I know I'm not right yet. If nothing else, you have to get the fold trimmed out. And you could do it on your scoreboard and do all that. And if you do, great. There you go. You need a little bit of a space. See that? Then this is going to be the pocket here. Is this my plan? It seems kind of weird to have these on this page. I don't love that, really. I just think they'll catch and be kind of annoying. So maybe we could switch it and then I would still like it. Let's see. That seems like a better plan. Draws the green out of there better too. Okay, you can trim these after too, but it is a lot easier to trim them now before they're sewed in. And big long scissors is probably the best way to do it, especially ones you haven't dropped and bent. Don't tell my mom. There was a thing on Instagram that said, I accidentally used my mom's scissors to cut, I accidentally used my mom's fabric scissors to cut paper and the police are here now. And I sent it to my mom and my sister and we were all dying because that is exactly how we were raised. And my mom gave me these giant fancy, she's had for what, 30 years scissors, and I bent them. I'm guessing it was because they fell down off the wall or something. They're still great though. Okay, now I don't want this stripe sticking out. It might have been that I rearranged things because I was too lazy to trim that. I definitely don't want it sticking out. And part of it is I don't like it that much. Color-wise, I think it's a stretch in this book. And I don't think it's really what my girl was looking for as far as color. But I did want a lot of pages because I want her to have places to be able to put pictures and do whatever. We can always cut pages out. That might sound a little crazy, but if you just felt like you had too many pages in a journal or it was messy, you could get a little knife and take some out. You could also just take scissors and like you could take a giant pair of scissors like this and just go whoop and cut that page. Then the other textures and patterns behind would show through and you would have less of a paper you didn't like or less blank space to deal with. What I usually do if the event is over, then I maybe don't have anything more to write about it or that kind of thing, I'll put more receipts or more photos. I can always fill it up. Still something a little weird. Okay, it's just moving. Now this one feels like it's trying to stick out. This blue florally one. It is. But I think once we trim that one, we're going to need to trim that one. You can measure and know which order you're going to put your papers in and like take off 1/8 of an inch as you go or whatever. That's a great idea. I'm never going to do it that way. I just put it together, see how I like it. I don't plan as I cut the pages which ones are going to go where in the journal. I think I can live with that. This one's sticking out a little bit. What is that? Oh yeah, I don't want the boring cream one that I added sticking out. And all I'm doing is putting them on the paper cutter and cutting off a hair like that. And that might be tricky on a, what do we call those? The one where the little plastic blade goes back and forth. You know what I'm talking about. Those, it's hard to take off a very, very small amount. So if you don't have a paper cutter that works really well, you might want to think about torn edges on your journal or something. Okay, there. And very often I don't trim the pages, I just let them be. And I don't mind that they're layered like this and you can kind of see the edges. I think that's kind of fun. I just don't want them to stick way out so that you can't reach the rest of things, or they don't work, or so that a paper that I don't love gets accented, like that blue striped one. I'm really torn on rounding the edges for this journal. I can't decide what I'm going to do, but I think I'm just going to round this pocket for now. And I'm going to try to use my circle punch. My circle punch is going to have a hard time with this. This is my size that I like for notching, and I mentioned that it's broken. It's got a crack. Yeah, see right there, and it can't stand up to Cartabella. I will forget the second I set it down that it's broken and I need a new one, and then I'll go on with my day, and then the next time we go to do something, I'll remember. I could have punched those separate and it probably would have worked better, but I was really worried about lining them up. The other thing is, in a perfect world, if I had more confidence in my punch or I was using cheaper paper, I would punch it after I sewed it together, because there's going to be a certain amount of adjustment from sewing it together and having the wax linen thread in there. There, I just patched up with my scissors. So it may shuffle a little and need some trimming. And if it gets too messy, I'll do it with scissors. Now my punch is not exactly in the middle. If that bothers me a lot, which I'm gonna look at, I can trim the end off. I'm gonna leave it really long though, because I wanna be sure I catch the ends with this, so it's sewn in 3 places. So I don't want it to be shorter. I don't want it to be, I'm just gonna leave it right like that. I am gonna turn it this way though. Since I didn't center it, I want the notch to be a little higher. It might line up when we put it together, it might not. If it doesn't, then the colors from the other side are gonna show a little. It's better almost when it's solid on the other side, so you don't have the distraction of the pattern. Okay, now get some clips, any kind of clips that you have. You've probably seen me do this a million times, and sometimes it works really well, but that's usually when the camera's not on. And part of it is my camera mount sits right over everything. So you know how you lean in and see, okay, do I have that straight, da-da-da-da? Well, it's a little harder when you're helping. Okay, now let's open this up. This is going to be a pocket in the very middle if you haven't seen me do this before and you're not sure where this train's headed. I'm going to center this. Now, I do have an envelope in here somewhere, and I want to look at how that envelope is going to sit. That looks pretty good. I think it's fairly centered on the page. I don't think I have anything else that isn't the full height of 8.5 by 11. Nope, I don't love it. It's easier to tell on this side than on the flap side. So I'm going to move this down a little, and I'm going to tap these, get them all straightened out a bit. I like that better. Now it shuffles when you shuffle the papers next to it, so just take a peek again and be sure got it how you want. See, it's sitting a little high there. There's no right or wrong, but you do want to think about, are you going to sew through it or not? So if you have something small in there, you want to check and be sure that everything's catching at least one thread. I mean, it doesn't have to catch 2, but these items are plenty big. Okay, now I'm going to look at how have I centered the journal itself in the cover. And I've made them a couple different ways. I don't know what's best. Sometimes I make them so when it sits on the counter, I put mine on the counter and stand them up a lot, it sits flush, and maybe that helps for the weight of it. But I'm gonna go centered and nice for this one, or at least try, right? That's gonna be my goal. And I think it'll hold together just fine. Okay, that all looks great. Binder clips are good. Giant paper clips are good. Whatever you do, just be careful if you have something fancy on your cover. Oh my gosh, are we gonna embellish the front? Have we picked, before I start gluing embellishments down, we better evaluate the cover again. Anyway, just be sure you don't scratch. Like sometimes I have a shaker or an embellishment or something sewed on the cover, so if you do that before you assemble it, just think about how it all goes together. Very often at this point, I just take my pokey tool and stab everything through. On this one, I'm actually going to use a piece of paper that marks where the holes would be in the middle and here, like I folded it and prepped it. You can do it either way. I'm sure I have videos showing that, but I just take a piece of paper, not super thick. You don't want like 110-pound cardstock because it gets hard to manage. Number one rule of sewing a journal together: go ahead and thread your needle before you poke all your holes and are trying to hold everything just so. Thread your needle, thread your needle, thread your needle. How many times have I forgotten that? Like a million. Okay, now because I'm using waxed linen, I only have one needle that will work. And it's not the sharpest needle, but it has a great big eye on it. Most of my needles cannot handle waxed linen thread. And I thought that for this, I want clean strings. I'm not going to have anything hanging down. I don't want an embroidery floss that's going to stretch over the years. I just want it very, very nice. Now, 1, 2, 3 lengths should be just fine for this because I don't tie bows and nothing's going to hang off. My needle is threaded. So in a minute, when my hands are full and I'm trying to hang on to things, I'm going to move this paper clip a little because it's down in the crack. You don't want that. I'm going to grab my pokey tool. There are lots of things you could use. I don't have an actual book making, whatever it's called. I have a phone book. A phone book's probably harder to find. Now I'm going to lift it up and just feel, yep, 3 holes. I'm not going to move the pokey thing yet. Now I'm going to grab this. Now take your template out. Don't sew your template in. I'm going to start in the inside because that's where I want my threads to end up. They're going to be hidden in this pocket. Then I'm going to go out here. I'm going to come in this top hole, which by the way is not perfectly centered. I can tell you that right now. And it's also maybe not as big as I need it to be for this needle. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to set this down in the crack again. This is kind of risky and crazy, but these are things I do. There, we made a bigger hole. Now I can get in there. This needle, like I said, this is a very big needle and it's not my easiest needle to work with, but when I do wax linen, I have to use it to get that eye through, but it is fat. And the wax linen thread kind of gets a little melty and sticky as it's in your hands. So sometimes I move it along to a different spot and try again because it was kind of globby and messy. And again, I just didn't make the hole big enough. So I have to fight my way back in there. I'm pulling the clips so that the paper can adjust a tiny bit. And I'm also trying to straighten it out so it's not tight. Now I just can't get through. So I got through the cover. I'm separating the layers. I can feel underneath, and then I'm pulling. Like I said, it always goes easier when the camera's off, I tell you. Okay, now you have to go back through the same hole, and you don't want to go through the thread, which is harder with embroidery floss. It's easier with wax linen thread because you can't get through the middle of it. But I've got big thread in small hole. So I'm going to pull this one up out of the way. And then I'm going to put my needle in this way, like pointing down. But I've got to get through the same hole, so I have to straighten it out a bit. And I can't get through there. So I'm probably not, there we go. See, I made it. And you just want to hang on to things because you don't want that thread that you already worked so hard to put in there to move. And with wax linen thread, it is easier. I mean, it's, except for the big needle, but it doesn't get tangled. It's smoother to put together than embroidery floss. I use embroidery floss a lot because I have so many colors. I have so much of it. And I like to have messy strings hanging sometimes. Okay, now I'm peeking down in there and trying to get back in that hole. And of course, the hole isn't big enough. So I haven't used wax linen thread in a while, I don't think. And I wasn't thinking about, I gotta make some big holes. But you just be patient. Worst case scenario, you cut your string and start over. but you find your way in. And these are all fairly large pieces of paper and fairly sturdy. Standing your journal up vertical like this and trying to go in through the holes is harder, and even an even worse idea if you have a whole bunch of like tea-dyed paper and scraps that are going to move. You know, I've been taking off the clips, but because these are such big pieces and so sturdy, I'm adapting to the materials I'm working with, which I do all the time. Just depends. Okay, now I'm actually loosening up the pages so that I can get through there because, you know, this is sturdy thread. These are tough papers. I am not worried about this journal like ripping apart next week or anything. Cartabella paper is tough. My hands are kind of waxed, messy, and it looks like I do have a little problem with the thread. There we go. I'm going to put this in the needle nest. I know, who am I? There we go. Now, you just jiggle things, tighten them up. If I was making strings that were going to hang down, I would get it all centered for that right now, but I'm going to cut all the extra off, so I'm not looking to make sure that it's perfectly centered. I'm just trying to make sure it's tight. And because I loosened up the sections, the pages, and flipped through, I'm just going to flip through every once in a while, especially if you're using embroidery floss. You get like a loop or some slack or something, so it never hurts to peek through. One time I actually missed a page too. I think I stood it up on end and I was fiddling with it, and yeah, pretty impressive. I don't know how you miss a page, quite frankly. Just get it tight. This top part is not as tight as I would like it to be, I can tell you that. So I'm going to reach on the back side and I'm going to pull and figure out which thread it is and get that tightened up a bit, because this is my chance. It doesn't get any more tight from here. Okay. I think I like those now. Square knot. Right over left. Left over right. 99% sure. There we go. Pull it tight. Sometimes I put a dot of glue in there. My hands are a little waxy from it. I'm going to cut this off. I'll probably cut these shorter right before I glue the pocket together, but that gives me the ability to pull them tight or retie them if I need. And I'm going to work with the journal a little before I glue this pocket. So I'm going to go and start in other places. And now you're just sort of convincing it to lay down again. And look at my top. It didn't line up perfectly. I don't think the world will end. And once you get it all decorated, you don't really notice how you lined up your pages or didn't. Now, we don't need the phone book. We don't need any of this stuff. We don't need the pokey tool. We don't need the wax linen thread. If I'm doing assembly line or making, you know, a batch of journals at once, I try to get them all to this phase and do it all at the same time, because you use completely different tools. Like these giant paper clips, the pokey tool, the phone book, these all go right back in my bin. I just put them away, get them out of my way. I know, who am I? But today I am making this journal, this one journal, and a whole bunch of cards if today goes well. I need some cards. I need some cards for my members. I need some cards for people at work. I also, oh, Tiny Cat's locked in the bathroom eating her wet food. I'll be right back. Zeus went outside and ran in the rain, and then Mr. Crafting and Relaxing let him in, so I had to step over him. But yeah, I forgot. Zelda in the bathroom for 20 minutes, but it worked because that wet food is gone. Eliza's going to be very disappointed at the leftovers. There are all sorts of tools and great ideas. Here's how I do this. I take paper that I don't care very much about, put it down in the journal. Sometimes I use a plastic bag. Don't use your cutting mats. I did that one day. I think I was at the beach and I thought I was super tricky. It took me so long to wash all the glue off my cutting mats, and I couldn't use them until I got all the glue off and got them dried. So don't use your die cutting mats for sure. Uh-oh, little Missy's coming to help us. Okay, this part is super boring, so I might turn off the camera at some point, but if you haven't seen it, I just take glue and I get those pockets glued. I didn't glue any of them before. I used to. I probably need to update my beginner journal making series because I was quite a beginner when I made that. I do the pockets after because of that, you know, twist and tweaking when you're trying to get everything sewed together. Now, for this, I can use a bone folder. I can use my fingers. I'm just worried because my fingers are really waxy. They're not very clean. I use tissue for everything. There's yelling again. Zelda's on my right, and I think Eliza's mad because Zelda actually ate all the wet food. Eliza, come on, baby girl. I know. But have you seen yourself? Yeah. You need to use your wheel some more and get a few more steps, and then we'll worry about you getting enough wet food, okay? I was doing wet food on a plate for each of them and trying to keep them separate, but what was happening was Zelda doesn't eat all of hers. Eliza ate all of hers, and then she always finished Zelda's. And then Eliza seemed to have stopped growing and started growing in a new direction quite suddenly. So she seems better now, and we've cut back on the wet food, but she might come and tell us about her problems. I promise you, they are not starving. There are 2 bowls of kibble in the other room. I'm not going to sew this one down for now, or glue it down for now. I haven't made up my mind. Also, I don't think I'm going to do any sewing on this journal that's attached. That's why I didn't do it before. But I might sew on some journaling cards, and then if she likes them, we'll put them in here. And if she doesn't, we won't. Oh, guys, we forgot to trim that, so it's an actual pocket. That's okay. I can probably handle it with scissors. Now, let's trim this one at an angle. We really, really, really don't want to cut the other pages around it. We just want to come in. In a perfect world, it would match this side. Ooh, pretty close. And mostly what I'm trying to do is get it to not stick out. Same thing here. So you can see this phase of a journal is pretty repetitive because you have the same thing happening usually on each side of the journal on the same piece of paper, just like we prep the top flips. Now this one, I've been doing something different with these. Let's make sure I have the right side up. You know, it's confusing because I have the tops and okay, yes, these are actual pockets. So what I've been doing with this is gluing it. That's weird. I've been going the other way most of the time. Just double checking that I'm right side up. Yep. So I'm going to put glue on the bottom, but not on the top. And what it does is it allows it to be a pocket. Now what I'm wondering, I am going to glue this part, I think, just so we don't lose anything down there. Because I usually only put small things anyway. Something's wrong with how I'm doing this, you guys. I need a little bit right here, I think. I've never actually thought about it before. I just do it. It's kind of a newer thing for me. Okay, now I love actually that the foliage shows through. That's kind of fun. And then what that allows us to do is... Purple tickets are not staying in this journal, but now we've made a little tiny pocket right here. So we could put a little tag, she could put a receipt, whatever. Okay. I think she's busy looking at possible wedding venues today. So exciting. Okay. This pocket, the way I folded it is either off a little or something. So it's sticking out. I'm going to try to trim it before I glue it. I can tell you right now, my trimming and gluing and all of this, it almost never goes well for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down here. And there. I at least took off the top edge, so where they meet, where the pocket comes across, it lines up. It's still a little tweaked, and it may be more or less tweaked after I actually glue it. And I don't think I've actually gotten very much glue on this piece of paper. If you do, be careful about moving it around, because then obviously it's going to glue to your other pages and stick. Be skimpy with the glue. More glue is not better. And on areas where you have doubts, maybe you're gluing more stuff, the answer is maybe a tiny bit more glue, but also to let it sit. Like if I have concerns, I take a wood block stamp or a big stamp block and I lay it on there and I go get some coffee or tea. I'm thinking tea. I've already had 2 cups of coffee and that's probably enough since I haven't had any food. Okay, now I did line it up quite nicely. It's a little weird. This is very thick paper, so that's going to change the, I'm going to say, settling time. I almost hope that she's busy and doesn't maybe want this journal today or this weekend. It will look better later in the week. Is that weird? What I do is I kind of, okay, glue came out the edge, so I'm going to move that and be sure I don't set that down right here again. What I do is when I get it all together, I start layering it up and then I fill it, and then the middle gets a little thick and it starts to round, and then I'll train the cover to fit it nicely. Oh good, we're gonna have more help. You can't quite see them, huh? There's some space between the camera mount and the wall, you know, where I store all my junk, and it's somewhat tidy, so there's room for them to walk through there. I'm resisting the urge to ink the edges of things too, just because I don't think that's her. Now this one we're gonna have to cut, and I'm gonna have to do it with scissors, people. Whew. My scissors aren't long enough. Let's try here. So part of paper crafting is figuring out how to get yourself out of a jam, right? Just like any other thing. So what I'm trying to do is use my cutter. I'm laughing because the girls are cuddling on the edge of the counter and Zelda has her arm around Eliza's neck. Okay, so I lined up that envelope on that line in the cutter. Is that where I want it? I don't know, but I think it'll make it straight. And I'm going to carefully hold the thing because I'm using it completely backwards. There. I cut off a straight piece. There we go. Nice. Okay, now this should work, on the envelope because it is thinner. And again, I remember I need to order one of those. Okay, cute. I really like that. See, I think this is her. Not messy, not torn edges, not a whole bunch of lace and ribbons hanging out. But see how it doesn't want to lay down. It has no intention of being an adorable journal at this point. Oh, but I will convince it. So on the Cartabella paper, or probably when you make a journal with blue fern too, you just want to take this outside, and I'm curving it even because I know I'm going to put a bunch of cute stuff. And so I want this to start curving around it. And the same for the back to some extent. And I'll get those layers just broken down a little so that they're not the straightest thing ever. And I'm not crimping. Would that be the word? Like, I don't want to kink the paper and show a mark. I just want to gently think about, like, if you were, here's another way to do it. I have a jar right here. I could wrap it on the jar. I'm just convincing it, hey, you're going to bend this way. Get used to it. There we go. Better already. See how it's starting to curve? Then as I fill the stuff up, it'll wrap around it. Okay, now maybe Miss Eliza can go take a nap somewhere else. I know, you're a big girl now. You don't fit like you did. Zelda's back on her towel. She's having a bath right now, but I think she's going to have a nap because she just had her wet food and she's been up since like 4, making me crazy. Usually they take a nap at like 7:30 and they have not stopped the terrorizing. I had to charge up some toys and get them entertained for a while. Okay, if I put this on here, we're gonna have to make a decision about, that's a lot of geometric stuff too for me. We could put flowers on it. What do you think about that? I would trim it narrower. Of all of the things my eyes have seen, the best by far is you. It knocks back the flowers, so I like that. What else do we have? I mean, these are embellishments that we want to use. Together is our favorite place to be. I don't like the butterflies. Also, have you guys ever watched me work with multiple word sentiments in a row? I would not be surprised if when we got done, I had glued this in the wrong order. Just like my recent greeting season. And then there was another time where I think I actually did birthday happy. Maybe you guys caught me in time. This is us, our life, our story, our home. These are super trendy. I don't know. Maybe they're even over now. And she would know. I wouldn't. I don't know that for her whole life she's going to want that on the cover. It's also a little big. It's a nice shape, though. When you love what you have everything you need. It's nice, but I don't think it's front cover. It's not the point of this. This is really long. I don't love that. I kind of absolutely love this one. We should be doing a live, huh? I feel like this is a little dark. I would have to, which I could, fussy cut some flowers and put them on there later. I like the rectangle, though. I'm going to definitely have to take quarter inch. It's going to be tight. We're not going to be able to take very much off of there. Maybe this is the answer, and then I put flowers around it. No, this. I just think this is more timeless. Like, I know the wood trendy stuff, that's kind of trendy, but I don't think wood ever really. I have a couple stamps too, but I don't really have one that I think is cover worthy. We're doing it. I looked around a little bit in my stamps. That's where I came up with these woodblock stamps. I don't have a lot of sentiments for this, and I don't want it to be like over the top wedding-ish. I want it to be like more timeless romance. Does that make sense? Like appreciating each other and finding each other and that. Right about there. I leave a little bit extra over here because it's going to curve. And in fact, I'm not going to glue it on right now. I'm going to let the cover keep adjusting to its shape and get it figured out because it's going to curve more right here. And I want this to sort of be in the middle. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to go like this. This will keep bending and it will sort of become like the front is a little narrower. And I want it centered. Yeah, I think that's probably how it's going to end up. Oh, I like it. It's very timeless, and I don't think it's too much about appearance. I think it's like you're the one, right? I'm going to put this in this envelope, and I'm going to put a Post-it on it that says cover, so I don't mess up and glue it on something. I've messed up a lot of things. The other thing I do sometimes, well, it wouldn't happen here, but I'll just see it as a scrap and I'll use it to chop it up, right? Like we talked about. Wouldn't happen with the pink. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the box. I'm not going to glue it on yet. We need to find something really nice for this inside cover because that was going to be my inside cover. And I like this so much. I think this should be right here. This does two things actually that I really like. It knocks back that geometric pattern, and three, it makes a pocket. And because I was torn on whether this should be the cover or not, I like to have really nice stuff right inside the front. Now we're going to have to decide in this moment, are we rounding the corners or not? Because otherwise I'm going to start messing them up. I think we are. I just feel it. I have this corner punch. It works really nice for almost everything, but one of you was kind enough to tell me I needed this for bigger stuff. And 2 sheets of Cartabella on an important journal. We're getting this one out. It didn't cut. It did not work. Now we have a nicked corner. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay. Can I get it set up? It's not chomping. I don't know if it's user error or if it literally can't do 2 sheets of Cartabella. No, there's something wrong. It's broken or something. This side right here is not chomping the same. Okay, I'm going to figure that out later. That means we're going to have to use this one. We're going to have to rely on this bad boy. Ready, set. Okay, there is a nick there from that other one, so I'm going to have to polish that up. It's on the front of my cover. Okay, this one is doing a great job though. It is, I mean, I'm feeling the pressure. I'm taking the time, making sure I have it straight and giving it a nice firm push. This one, I'm going to have to get my scissors that we know are here somewhere because we've been using the little ones, not the big ones. And just touch this up. I just have to round it a little more. Probably should put glasses on for this. Again, this would be a lot easier if we were inking the edges because we would sort of ink over this debacle. Oh no, I just think ink makes everything better, right? There. Okay. A normal user would never notice. Now remember, even if your rounding isn't perfect, they're not going to touch. They're not going to like line up. By the time I get done, this thing will be chunky. I haven't decided about a string or a band. I don't think so. I think if anything, she could put a sheer ribbon around it. You know, it's wedding, you have tons of ribbons, and just tie it that way. And that might be great. I probably have some too, but mine would be blue. Okay, now we know we're going to round it. I'm not going to round this because of how it is, but I'm going to put it a little higher than I would have, right? I don't want that pointy corner right next to it. I think I'm going to put it about right there. Well, maybe a little more out. The other thing having a big pocket on the inside does is helps stabilize the front cover. You know, if you're going to beat it up for years and drag it in and out of places, and it just adds more. So now I'm going to have 3 layers of nice thick paper. Okay, seems pretty straight. I don't know if it is. There, that might be better. Okay, and again, I'm going to use my Kleenex just along the thing. Make it straight so that if any comes out, I'm not wiping it across my page. I'm wiping it right along the edge where I already want glue. There we go. We'll add some color into that to bring in some of the green. Then we'll turn this page. This pocket is good. Let's look. The problem is I put all the things in the pockets, the clear pockets, and now I can't really remember what pages I was going to put them on, right? This green I don't love, so we're going to kind of tone it down, and I think this is what I was thinking here. Together is our favorite place to be. Okay, so we'll have a cute cover. We'll have that right there. Probably a picture of them goes right here. This space for another picture. Pocket, writing, or photos. Again, photos or pockets. Oh, I bet this one goes here. I have to think about it. I did kind of make a video that I flipped through before I took all the things out, but since I'm filming for you, it's on my phone. I probably should get some of my videos off my phone in case today goes badly too. I wasn't even sure my phone was going to turn on last night and it was plugged in. Okay. It's just too tall. I love these flowers, but I think I'm going to have to cut them down. This I don't need, so let's go like this. And I don't know that they all need to be the same either. But just in case we want them the same, let's go to 2 inches. There, we cut a bunch of that dark off. Yeah. Oh, I love these flowers. Hate to cut them off, but there's more down there. Okay, now we're not going to go nuts with the rounding, but we are going to add a little something and just kind of cute this page up a bit. We just don't want it to look like I just slapped rectangles on a page. If you didn't have this border across the bottom and you wanted to, you could do, like, take a pen and do some stitching around it. I have ones where I've torn a place on it. I have a smaller punch for smaller pockets. These are all different widths, I'm now realizing, because it was about the length of the sentiment. When I'm trying to be careful, I actually measure. I know, it's crazy. So this one is 4, so we got to go about a little over 2 is where we want the punch. Yep. This one is less than 4, so we're going to go, yeah, that's going to be like about the middle right there. I mean, I'm using measuring pretty vaguely, right? Less than, oops. Less than, they're very close. I mean, really, they're all very close in size. Okay, let's clear a little bit of this out. Then we'll use this smaller punch, and I don't need it to be halfway or anything. I just want it to be a small notch, partly because these are shallow pockets. So I don't want my notch to be giant. I just want it to be enough so that people know their pockets and they look a little cute. This paper is thick. Hopefully those look pretty good. Yep, I need to redo the top one because, or whichever one this is, because the others were quite a bit bigger. Still it looks small. Oh, I think it'll work. Okay. See, you're going to have to watch me. Be sure I get them on the page right. This one has a little thing there. Now, I don't usually line them up perfectly, and I won't do that with these because they're different sizes anyway. So I'm going to go here, sort of in the middle, and then about there. I don't want to go really high because I want to be able to use that top pocket. So I'm going to do the bottom one first. And sometimes I only glue the bottom so that you can have other stuff in there. This one, because it's here, I'm going to go like this. So you could have stuff sticking out the other side if you want. And again, I'm going to take my tissue. Mostly I'm applying pressure. I'm not really trying to squeeze the glue out, but it happens sometimes. Art glitter glue dries, I think, the fastest, so that helps. Now I'm going to do the top one. And on the top one, I'm going to go glue on this side. Did you see a bit of glue just shot out of like a bubble onto the left side? Again, great to have a tissue handy. Okay, now let's go here. I was going to make sure it covered up the dark, and left lots of room at the top. I don't know where it was. Let's try right here. Now it bends right there. The page does. I do want something kind of heavy on that for a minute. So let's put that right there. Doesn't hurt to hold these down while I'm at it. If you give art glitter glue a good 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, that's really what it needs. But don't fiddle, like don't lift up the paper and try and see if it's stuck. You can't be doing that. You just have to commit to it. I think on this one, I want a little bit of the white showing underneath it. And it's easier to put the ends down and then kind of see how the middle looks between them, instead of trying to go in a row and space them perfectly. And in this, I want to leave room for stuff to come out the top, right? Don't forget, these are actual pockets. And if I put them too close together, then I get messed up and don't really get to use the pockets. I did one the other day. I can't remember which journal it was in. It might have been in the Winnie the Pooh one. And my top pocket I thought was a little close. I just didn't give myself quite as much room as I would have liked. Especially in this one, since we're not going for the messy look. We don't want to have stuff hanging out the tops. Okay, now that isn't sitting tight. That's fine. I didn't glue it, remember? I just glued an L. This is not making contact in all areas because it's not that heavy and the stuff isn't flat. I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to go see what Mr. Crafting and Relaxing is up to, and I'll be back.